Our next presenter and our final presenter tonight is actually a duo team. Once again, we have Marcus and Sarah, who lead Sawhorse Revolution, where teens learn carpentry and design by transforming real community spaces. Their project at Estelita's library gave youth hands-on skills, a paycheck, and a chance to create space for art, activism, and culture. It's the perfect reminder that when young people build, they're not just shaping structures, they're shaping communities and themselves. Up next, we have Teens Transforming Communities, Estelita's Library, by Marcus Henderson and Sarah Smith. Please give them a hand.
Hi, it's me. Marcus is at the Black Urban Growers Conference in Detroit right now, so I'm sure there's a common interest there. But I'll be representing for Sawhorse, and let me see if I can get this to work. Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm the executive director and co-founder of Sawhorse Revolution. I use she, her pronouns. And I'm really excited to talk to you about our project at Estelita's Library, Teens Transforming Communities. So first off, just look at the students. Do they look happy? Yes, they're using tools. That's right, they've got a project. They're installing Simpson hardware on some 20-foot beams for a social justice library that they actually designed. What could be better? Unfortunately, I know, give it up. Unfortunately, the world doesn't want them to be doing this. Public schools have systematically removed making from most curricula. So for example, Seattle Public Schools has cut all but 5 shop classes in the last 40 years, meaning if you're a young person in Seattle today, it's highly likely you will graduate school without having ever picked up a tool. Enter Sawhorse Revolution. We're a nonprofit that for the last 15 years has been teaming teens with professional builders and designers in Seattle to create inspiring structures. Sawhorse. Through this work, we've been able to explore time and again the nature of learning and learning by doing, and why it matters, if it does at all. For one, I would say it does matter. Experiential learning is something we do before we even talk. We first ask what the world around us is by touching it, moving it, hitting it, bumping into it. Acting on things, making things with our hands is a form of thinking. And the French word for hand, main, is the same root word in Sanskrit as mind, indicating that fundamentally thinking and making are intimately connected. And so at Sawhorse, our thesis is, if you want to learn about the world, you should make something in it. This will lead you on an adventure that is richer than you could have ever imagined. It is not a canned or a passive experience. We believe that in order to learn, you should enter the stream of activity. And if there's anything I'll always say no to, it's a passive field trip. We want our youth to become part of the landscape they live in and learn about. And we believe this is critically important to any kind of justice work. So let's look at one of our flagship projects, Estelita's Library. In 2018, we were invited by the city of Seattle to give away a tiny snippet of unused Seattle property through an RFP process where the winner was chosen by our youth. The youth decided on Estelita's Library to receive not only the property, but a structure designed and built by them. Now, Estelita's is a race and social justice bookstore and library that hosts the world's largest collection of Black Panther newspapers, one of which you can see in this photo here, at our first site visit with Estelita's. And at a series of site visits, our students are coached by the architects. They come up with questions to ask and to learn about the community organization they're working with so that they can design them a structure. At the series of site visits, Aaron and Edwin from Estelita's told stories for our students about the Black Panther Party in Seattle. And far from our stereotypical vision of the Black Panthers as black people with guns and berets, Aaron and Edwin told the true story of redlining in Seattle. And the map on my left is where Black and African American people were allowed to buy homes in Seattle. And this is actually how it was, an entire population corralled. But in response to this and many other forms of oppression, the Black Panthers rose up to heal and feed their communities, founding the first community healthcare clinic in the country, the Carolyn Downs Family Medical Center, which is still in the Central District today, and a free breakfast program for school children to offset systematic economic oppression. And this breakfast program would feed thousands of children annually. Edwin also pointed out a statue in Madrona of a pig, symbolic of a cop, and a panther, symbolic of the struggle for justice that the panthers represented. This statue is right outside the Madrona Library, which is just blocks from the original Panther offices, where the Panthers met to organize, to feed, to heal, to protect, to study. Stories about our own built environment, our history, that are now invisible to the eye and only come alive through a process of discovery, of adventure, participation, and imagination. Many of our students in the program who grew up in the area never knew this history, the history of their own streets and schools, but now they were becoming a part of it. We spent the next 10 weeks designing under the tutelage of architects from Olsen-Kundig. This is a collaborative process of empathy and imagination in which one becomes close to the subject through a process of iterative, practical, collaborative imagination. The theme our students chose for the library is a warm and accepting place where the community can come together to discuss revolutionary ideas and celebrate courageous people of the past and present. They presented their design, and then, of course, we build. This actually, side note, is all in a women's program that we were running for about 6 years. And what we learn in building is that building builds. What does it build? It builds community. It builds confidence. You confront tools you're nervous about. It builds a special kind of patience that comes only from working on a project that can't be accomplished by one person in one day or in an hour. It builds a sense of working through mistakes, quite unlike a ratings-obsessed classroom. In construction, success is what we do together. Success is that the building holds up, that it is beautiful, that it is strong, that the waterproofing properly laps to shed water. Right on. Building also teaches us something else, something like the ability to see through walls. As with the history of the Black Panthers, the history of each structure is hidden within the walls. Students learn by working together, by struggling, overcoming, and by the effort it takes, how many stories are in the world that we don't see with our own eyes. I've said it so many times, but the story of each build project we do is written into the very timbers. In Estelita's library is the history of teamwork, as you can see in this photo, a moment of danger overcome, friendships made, high fives. And then the stories and all of that history gets to have a new life as a beautiful project. Here's Estelita's as it stands now on Martin Luther King Jr. Way South, just between Yesler and Jackson, 10 blocks from the original Panther offices in Madrona.
Hell yeah.
As much as I am interested in resurrecting the body in education, I also acknowledge that in a way we're tricked by our senses. We see a wall, a building, a social issue, a polluted river, and it's as if it was always like that. I think a lot about the landscape of Seattle, and then I try to imagine how it was 10 years ago, 50 years ago, 300 years ago. How did the Green River, the Duwamish, get so polluted? What was it like before that? Who lived here, and why don't they live here anymore? We need this history. We need to develop a sense of vision that connects past, present, and opens a possibility to shape a different future, instead of the same mechanicality operating over and over. I wish I could invent goggles that we could put on so we could just see the invisible forces that shape the world around us, but we don't have those. We have to learn to work with the visible in order to get to the real invisible, the real history. And for Estelita's, our students got to be a part of that real but hidden history of the struggle for a better world. Maybe it's a little odd to give a talk about history and the nature of learning at a green building conference, but I think it's inherent in many of the talks that have come here that the stories of our world are actually deeper than what we see on the outside, and the world is not always as it was today, and that it could be different than it is now. So that's a sliver of what we do at Sawhorse. We've done over 80 projects, each one as rich and as fulfilling as the work we've done at Estelita. So I would encourage you, take a snapshot. That's a QR code to our website. And see if you can check us out, get involved. We're actually looking for a board treasurer, so if anyone's interested. We've got a board member and staff in the crowd. And just to close up, I'd like to share a quote that we sometimes share with our students. I was an English major. I love William Blake. So, to see the world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wild flower, to hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. We want to be in this place of unknowing, of searching, of finding things out. And thank you all for being here. Good night.